Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast on the From the Queue Podcasting Network. My name is Jerome Cuson. As always, leave a 4 or 5 star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for notifications. This week, we are going to be continuing our conversation about Robert Altman as we discuss 2002's Gosford Park. My co-host, as always, is Brian, and Brian, this is definitely one of your suggestions. And wait, you know it, we are just a month out from the final Downton Abbey movie coming out. Like they are literally promoting it as like not just the last movie, but like this is the last hurrah for these actors and for these characters. And I don't know if you did this knowingly, but you picked Gosford Park, which heavily influences Downton Abbey in a lot of ways, including having the very same writer. The writer of this movie would go on to create Downton Abbey years later. And there is at least one notable casting that is common for both.
For sure. Like, I'm not even a big Downtown Abbey fan. I've seen clips. It's fine. Like, I get the similar vibes. It just reminds me of Gosford Park, and Gosford Park was like enough for me from that era. And I've already watched a lot of those Agatha Christie type mysteries, right? Which is great because the Maggie Smith character in this movie for Gosford Park is very much the opposite of what she plays in those Agatha Christie movies from the 70s and 80s. She's usually the one who's the lower class helping the upper class, which is why I think it's great that she switched it up in this role when they casted her and they made her their upper class. She just does well in both roles, but it's the younger, and when she's younger, the 70s and 80s, she's more snappier and she's quippier, but she's still as like, nasty as she can be with those little remarks here and there. And she just nails those little remarks in this movie. So credit to Maggie Smith for the casting in terms of that
And that
familiarity,
would
but
extend to Downton Abbey as well. She basically
right.
plays the
It's
same
the
character.
same character almost, but she's just so great in the role, right? That's what's great about her, and Dame Maggie Smith, right? Like she grew her resume in the last 20 years more so than I thought, like her previous 30. It just feels like it in terms of legacy, but
I
more
mean,
than
she did Harry Potter and Downton Abbey, which are two of the most popular pop culture
right.
things
And the
of the
popular
last
things I
year.
was talking about the 70s and 80s was like Agatha Christie, movies and stuff like that with ensemble casts, right? So she's been there, done that. So it's a perfect role for her. In terms of the timing, it's just weird because you talked about, August with Altman. So it's like, yeah, let's talk about Gosford Park, the one movie from like my early, when I started getting into films, like that was one of the earlier films I saw where I was like the youngest person in the theater, right? Like everyone else was like over 40 in the theater. My dad takes me to this movie and it's almost sold out at an 8 o'clock showing on a Friday night when this first comes out. And it's like everyone is in their 60s. And my dad's looking around. He's like, "Are you sure you want to watch this movie?" I'm like, "Dad, I want to watch this movie." And it just, and I love murder mysteries ever since then. I don't know if I watched more murder mysteries before this, but this was definitely one of the first murder mysteries that really got my attention in terms of, we'll talk about the twist at the end. But it's mainly about the last 35 minutes where the twist coming in. And now that I've seen some like more Agatha Christie type movies and stories, I can tell like they take a lot from that in terms of like the twist at the end. It's never usually like a normal murder. There's always a layer of like some kind of red herring on top of it, and multiple red herrings on top of it. In some cases, there's like seven murderers instead of one. But in this case, it's actually one with an attempt with two. But again, we'll spoil that in a bit. But in terms of the plot line, I like how it follows that traditional kind of style. And with Robert Altman, he's great with ensemble cast. And in this case, there's not a lot of cross talking, which I guess is like I'm very much more like, my ears are not as like going all over the place trying to, pick up multiple conversations. But in this case, I think the audio track was actually pretty leveled out in terms of like conversations here and there that you can understand. And of course, I mean, if you look at the casting list, this is like an unbelievable cast. Like anytime you have Derek Jacobi in a movie where he's not like chewing scenery and he's just being normal, I feel like you really got this guy under control because he can just, I don't know if you know Derek Jacobi as well as I do, but I've seen him in some roles that just go over the top. And in this case, he's just so like reserved until he has to cry in the middle of the movie. But it's just weird to have all these great actors that can just chew scenery because they're just known for it and they kind of hold back on them. And some select actors get to do that at the end, but it's just this amazing cast that comes together. It's like you got the guy from the head of the Lannister family. I forget his name, but like, the guy from Godzilla and Kong and all that or whatever, King of the Monsters. And he's like in a movie where he's not even doing anything and he hardly has to do anything and he doesn't even swing his fist. I'm so used to guys swinging his fist. He's the bad guy in True not True Lies, but Last Action Hero. And he's just there, and he's just kind of just standing around doing nothing, and he's just part of the cast. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a just an unbelievable cast list. I mean, you've got Michael Gambon is in this movie is in what is nominally the lead role. You've got Bob Balaban, who is probably best known for a lot of the Coen Brothers movies, but he is credited as coming up with the story for Robert Altman. Apparently, he and Altman are the one that wanted to do sort of a who done it. And I mean, I guess I feel very similar to this, like how I did with The Long Goodbye. I don't know that this genre is really playing to Altman's strengths as a storyteller, and I think it's amplified by the fact that Julian Fellows does not have a tremendous sense of humor. And I think that the main issue with that I have with this movie is not necessarily coming from the Altman side, because I think this is extremely well directed. I think the cast is great, but I am not a fan of Julian Fellows as a writer. I tried to give Downton Abbey and Gilded Age a shot, and his writing style and the way that he writes things, the way that he does his little things, it does nothing for me. Like, I'm gonna spoil the Downton Abbey trailer, just because like there's something even in the trailer that just annoyed me. Like, one of the big scandals is that somebody is divorced and it becomes a thing, and like that is not a story that I am interested in hearing about, like, in 2025. And again, I know that the movie takes place in 1930, when maybe that would actually be a scandal, but that is just like just turning these very trivial things. And there's also examples in this movie of just like very trivial, silly things just becoming a really big deal because of class and all that stuff. Yeah, that garbage just does nothing for me. And I don't know, like, I think that it was really hard for me to get into this movie, both because of that and because like this movie just has a complete lack of humor in it, except for Maggie Smith, who gets to play some of her sassiness, which is good, but the rest of the movie just doesn't have that. And I mean, look, this movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes, which I would argue is too long as well. But there's also a lot of characters. There's the tension that exists between the upstairs and the downstairs. So I understand what they're going for, and I think it is a noble effort. This movie was extremely successful, but like I would just say this movie is not my vibe.
Which is fine. Like like I said, I'm not a Downtown Abbey fan. I did see that trailer, but I saw it on like the AMC Dolby Digital. So I don't know if it's getting a Dolby Digital release, because they really brighten the colors for that movie. I don't know if the show normally looks like that, because I've seen some clips that are kind of like muted colors, but like it looks like they're popping the colors in this, which they didn't really do in this movie, which is on purpose, because like it's not supposed to be a movie with popping colors, but the set design is unbelievable. It's like it's an actual estate. Everyone's in costume on proper, in the proper year and proper form, and the cars are, for the time, and everything looks great. So in terms of that, I love the look of the film and the music, and the music is very subtle. It actually, increases some of the tension in some of the scenes when it needs to be, and it does its job well in terms of like a mystery plot, soundtrack. It fits fine. I'm more interested in like the performances and the nuances, and like just somehow like some of these characters like are just so sick of the upper class that they just have to stick with their job even though they hate it, which is it's a very common theme. It's like you're sick of your job, and you're stuck with it, and you're stuck with these people that you hate, and you live through their drama, right? And that's part of like the context of like the lower class always like jibber jabbering and spreading rumors and innuendo about the people upstairs, because they hear it from their valets or their personal valets or their personal maids, and all this gossip just spreads throughout the house. And I love that kind of concept. It kind of like makes this own world, like an actual like it really like fleshes out the world of what we're seeing, because it's like a giant house with two levels with so many characters, but because of the breakdown, it allows you to see things from different classes, right? And of course, the upper class kind of shows their ass all the time in terms of like their stupidity. It seems like they're not the brightest people, yet they've just been born with money, and they're just like whatever, and all they care about is just like either getting a paycheck or a handout from the Michael Gambon, I guess the main father of all of them. the main heir or whatever, and everyone is just kind of scheming up until the point where he dies, and it's like, oh shit, this kind of solved my problem. So now you got multiple suspects as to who in the whodunit area. So there's one aspect of the movie, and there's a totally different aspect of the movie that I don't know how Jerome feels about it, but it leads to a casting of Ryan Gosling where it's obvious that it's a fake Scottish accent that he's doing, and it plays into the movie, and we find
You
out
mean
that he's an
Ryan
actor.
Felipe, right? You mean
Sorry,
Ryan Felipe.
right? What did I say?
Said Ryan Gosling, which not at
Jesus,
all
my apologies. Sorry, that's a totally different level of talent right there. Ryan Phillippe, and this is, of course, off of what
bad.
Cruel Intentions.
Yeah,
Right
the
off
the
of
role
that.
was originally the role was written, I guess, for Jude Law, and let me tell you, it is really obvious it was written for Jude Law.
Now that I see it, yeah. Now that I hear that, yeah. And it's just weird because it just seems so out of place for him, to be in this
It
movie.
really, like,
But
he stands out like a sore
I
thumb.
guess that's the point because they throw in this American director as like this. That's part of the black comedy of it all. That's where they kind of throw in the black satire comedy of it all because he's talking about making a movie about a murder mystery while a murder mystery is literally happening in front of him. And that's kind of like the comedy, and that's why they introduced that Hollywood character to throw that in there. But I'm mainly into the whole class issues stuff, to be honest. Like, whether it's funny or not, I'm more interested in these characters and the relationships and the revelations. And the revelation that later on we find out that the Clive Owen character is actually the son of Michael Gambon, and Michael Gambon, of course, had all these children. And they just with maids and stuff, right? And it just, like a son of a bitch that he is, just sent him off to all these orphanages and said goodbye to him. And God knows how many kids that he has, but Clive Owen was smart enough to find out that it was his father. So he basically secretly works his way up the to where he can go to his house as a valet for someone else to extract his revenge, only for him to find out, or only for the mother to find out, played by Helen Mirren, that her son is like alive, and that her son is Clive Owen, and that knowing that, she's like, oh my God, he's here to kill Michael Gambon to get revenge for disowning him or whatever. And so she instinctively poisons Michael Gambon, killing him. So once Clive Owen comes in, he stabs Michael Gambon, and there's no like blood coming out, which is like the first tell. And then you realize, oh, he's already dead. So that's kind of the twist of it all. And there's this big revelation at the end that the two laid maids are like sisters, and that they have this history, and it's this really dark tragedy. And the reason she killed Michael Gambon was to protect her son that she just realizes is alive. So it becomes this tragic kind of ending, but it's also kind of a happy ending, knowing that, I guess, like, if you thought your son was dead all this time, and then all of a sudden he just pops back into your life, right? And you want to do everything to protect him, and instinctively you just decide to kill your boss because you know that he's going to kill your boss. So I get it. I get the motives, and it just makes sense. And there's this like tragic relief at the end with Helen Mirren just holding everything back, and then finally, when everyone leaves, she just starts crying, knowing that her son is finally alive, and she's just like distraught. But it's really great acting. So in terms of that, I love the performances. The story is whatever. It's like whatever compared to like other mysteries I've seen, but I do love the acting and the set pieces.
I mean, I would say that those are the clear strengths. I think that, I mean, Downton Abbey literally just adopted so much of what this movie looks like, I would say. And I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, given the success of this movie, both at the box office and being nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning, and also being nominated for some BAFTAs. I mean, I could totally see why you would rip this movie off. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. One of the things that I was struck by in watching Clive Owen in this movie, I'm not gonna lie, I watched this, I was like, how did Clive Owen not get picked to be the next James Bond? Look, I love Daniel Craig. I think he should have been, but you look at Clive Owen in this movie, and I don't know how you don't think he's the next James Bond.
Have you heard the theory that layer cake is what got him the role for Daniel Craig? Have you heard that
I
theory?
mean, I mean,
That's what
I
I mean.
always
That's what everyone has been saying, and I get that. And I watched that movie, and it's a British gangster movie from 2004 or
I mean,
whatever.
it is phenomenal. It is.
It's well directed. It gets confusing, but it's very well directed.
I
But
mean, the
Daniel
thing
Craig is
is that
excellent in it.
I don't know how well it holds up now. But at the time, I mean that movie was
So if I
well
get what you're
regarded.
saying, but I think the physicality of a James Bond, I think that's why they picked him because he was able to show it. It's just Clive Owen did it a little too late because I think what the first big action movie that Clive Owen did was I want to say Shoot 'Em Up, or even I wouldn't say Sin City is a big action
Perhaps,
movie.
but like I was just watching, like I wasn't even watching this with the intention of thinking that, but like as soon as I saw him, I'm like, wow, he looks exactly like how you would want the next James Bond after Pierce Brosnan to look.
I
So
agree.
it
It's just
just,
there was I don't know. Maybe there were plans, but maybe just things
I mean,
didn't
he was
level out.
literally at one point, like I'm reading, he was rumored to be the successor. There was a public opinion poll in October 2005. He was the number one choice, and that's the same month that they announced Daniel Craig, and in a couple of years later, he said he wasn't even considered for it, and it's just very surprising. And again, Daniel Craig is phenomenal. I'm really glad. I think the Daniel Craig Bond era is the best Bond era, even despite some of the inconsistencies. But I mean, I think we got two and a half really, really good Bond movies out of Daniel Craig, and yeah, it was very surprising to me. Just seeing Clive Owen, it just
Yeah,
really did.
yeah, I get you because like when you first see him, he's like really tall and he stands out because he's taller than everyone in the film. So that's a definite plus. And then the way he's kind of built and the way he kind of carries himself and the way he's smoking a cigarette. I know, and that's another thing too. Is like Robert Altman. It's just something about cigarette smoking in all his movies or most of his movies. But in
Yeah,
this case, it just seemed like people were literally passing on cigarettes from one to another because they didn't want to waste it, which I thought was just like a little funny detail. You know what I mean? It's like I think in
I
America
can see
people will
it.
just probably throw it out, but in Britain it's like we got to save our cigarettes and make them last and don't waste them. I thought that was a little funny detail there, but again, it's like this contrast of British culture and American culture, right? Because the way you got to also perceive this movie is that it's a well, the one if you want to say it from a stoner's American stoner's perspective on British culture is kind of what I put it as, right? Because
I mean, which is
Robert
weird that
Altman
it's
is
not
American.
funnier. Like the fun. I mean, I think it seems to me like you're saying that there is some black humor and there is some subtle comedy. I don't know. Like I guess like with the way that Robert Altman directs something like MASH and Popeye, like I was just expecting a little more zaniness, and even a movie like The Player, which comes out 10 years before this, that also has a little bit more humor to it. I just felt like it was really lacking in this movie, and it was just very surprising to me. And I think that's one of the reasons that this is probably my lesser of all of his movies that we have discussed, which is now seven. We will make it eight next week when we talk about the Prairie Home Companion. But a couple of other things that I want to address. I do think like the reason that Ryan Felipe stands out so much is because I think the rest of the cast actually is very cohesive and I think works extremely well together. I think that is a byproduct of just Robert Altman's style. I think he is able to just he's very good at casting. Number one, and number two, I think he is also very good at just making a movie feel natural. And I think that's one of the reasons that I think this cast, which does have so many notable people, just it comes across extremely well because of Altman's style. And I think Felipe just stands out because of that. I do want to talk about Stephen Fry in just a moment. But how scandalous was it to have a vegetarian in the house, Brian? Just very offensive to the British sensibilities.
I mean, it's going to throw the menu off track, that's for sure. I mean, if you're not prepared in what was it, 19, I forget, 30
32,
something,
1932.
1932,
Yep.
being a vegetarian and not telling the head chef ahead of time, it's going to throw some things off, man. You're going to end up with a sad salad or something like that. But yeah, very funny stuff because if you notice, like, it's just amazing how prepared that the cooking staff is, and they're just always
Yeah.
ready to go. It's very like wow. It's like anytime. It's like I guess you get that on The Bear, right? It's like you get amazed sometimes at how you just never appreciate a kitchen staff for what they do and how much they produce. So again, it's like one of those things in the background where it's like. And another thing, we're going to talk about Stephen Fry, but did you notice the cop actually figuring out the murder in the background while Stephen Fry's talking?
I mean, there. That's the thing about Altman movies. There is always something going on in the background, and I think again that is like that's what makes him so good.
So when I say that he's figuring out the murder in the background, it's like Stephen Fry's interviewing everybody, and he's like touching everything in the office where the murder takes place, which you're not supposed to do because they haven't even dusted for fingerprints yet. And in his cohort, who's the I guess the regular cop, not the detective, is like telling him all these details he's finding, and he's like, "Shut up! The maids are gonna clean it. Just leave it alone. That's got nothing to do with this." When it obviously is. And he's like, "I found some footprints, sir, and it's muddy. Sir, I found a broken coffee mug." And then he like, "Sir, I found this door." And then you see him like in the background while Stephen Fry's interviewing some other people. In the background, he's literally like walking the same route that Clive Owen did before he stabs Michael Gambon. And it's like, oh, he figured it out. And then they just never go back to it because he's not the main detective. So he's got no say. So it's again, there's that black humor that kind of sips in every now and then. And I think that scene was just like, wow, just like if you're on point and you're paying attention and you know what's going on, it's like he solved everything and yet it just doesn't matter. So I think the murder is actually going to be left unsolved, I believe, because no one suspects anyone in the lower class, right? Because they think, oh, there's no connection to them. They're the lower class, even though a lower class person of the lower house did commit the murder. So it's just like, well, no one's going to find out. So that's the end. And
that's the end of that chapter.
And I guess, the Michael Gambon character anyway is a son of a bitch, and he's a monster, so he deserved to die anyway. I mean, he was kind of his dog, which I guess was a nice thing, but, at least the dog got to go home happy.
I mean, he loved the dog more than he loved people, so that's
I guess, what does that tell you?
Think about how many murder mysteries, I mean, like, Who Shot JR, Mr. Burns, like, I mean, this is kind of a tried and true. I mean, I think even some of the Poirot mysteries do some of this as well.
Yeah, there's some crazy, wacky revelations in some Poirot movies where it's like some guy actually did the murder, but he pretended to shoot himself and actually had to shoot himself to get the alibi down, kind of thing. So I've seen that. So the ending is not really a stretch to me in terms of like a whodunit and everyone gets away with it or no one gets, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it happens. A murder happens. The person who did the murder got away with it and everyone's happy at the end. So it just happens sometimes that way. So, and I think that's part of the commentary on these British mysteries anyways. Like that was the whole point of it. So I give this a 7.5 out of 10. I think over time it might grow on me the more I kind of get into the characters and more I watch this, but I'm just engrossed in like the whole concept of like the way the movie was structured with almost completely two different casts working together as one. You know what I mean? The way it's layered. So it's very well put together and well made.
I give this a 7 out of 10. I mean, I think the first half of this movie was kind of a struggle, but it definitely picks up in the second half when you get Stephen Fry on the screen. He definitely has, and he has a major positive impact, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't think this movie is bad, but it definitely is the lesser of the movies that we've watched in his canon. And next week, Brian, we are going to be ending on a kind of a somber note in many ways, with some of the recent discussions about public funding, the Me Too cancellation of Garrison Keller. We're going to be discussing some of that next week when we talk about Robert Altman's final movie, A Prairie Home Companion.
I watched this in theaters. I knew it was Robert Altman. I knew about the whole ensemble cast thing. What I was really impressed with, Jerome, is the quality of songs, and some of them I think are real songs. Some I think they wrote for the movie, but in comparison, I think it's going to be better than a Nashville.
Spoiler alert: we are ending on a high note because I think A Prairie Home Companion is really good. So we will be ending on a positive.
And we'll finally probably end that debate about the discussion between the writing of the songs in Nashville versus the writing of the songs in this. Letting an actor write the song versus an actual musician write the song. I think it's a clear difference.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we'll see. We'll have this argument next week, I'm sure. And then in 2 weeks, Brian, are you ready for Sergio September?
Well, I'm shocked that it's coming because I've been pushing for this for a while, and Jerome all of a sudden just started binging the Sergio Leone movies, and it's everything that I thought he would expect out of him. So it's a lot of greatness, folks. So I guess we're gonna do the Dollars trilogy and end it with and then Once Upon a Time with the West will be the main event. Which, or maybe we'll switch it up. I don't know, because with Once Upon a Time in the West, I feel like we can do a right match with Terry Funk and tie that in. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out because he loves that. He used that theme in NWA. You could hear it on the VHS tapes before they removed it for the digital releases on WWE Network. But I mean, that harmonica theme was associated with Terry Funk with me as a kid. So
Yeah, we've got a lot to look forward to, and of course, we will also have the right match, which you can probably imagine what the right match is going to be, given we're going to talk about Sergio Leone. Not spoiler alert, it will not be Terry Funk.
well, I could push for a possible right match at the end of the month. We'll see. We've done that recently, but we'll see because I feel like that's a right opportunity. We'll find out. Maybe a quick Terry Funk squash with Eddie Guerrero, if you know what I mean.
Well, we will see. But for Brian, I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again next week, ending Altman August.
Cool, cool. But yeah.